After 9/11, the U.S. military's role quickly changed from capturing Osama bin Laden to nation building and even drug enforcement. After failing to capture bin Laden, the U.S. began the invasion of Iraq and similar exercises in nation building throughout the Middle East. In a panel discussion recently talking about the war issue, 3 Republican members of the House of Representatives admitted the unthinkable, that their colleagues in the Republican Party now believe that the invasion of Iraq was a mistake. California Representative Dana Rohrabacher, once a speechwriter for President Ronald Reagan, said, quote, "I will say that the decision to go in retrospect, almost all of us think it was a horrible mistake. Now that we know it cost $1 trillion and all of these years and all of these lives and all of this blood, all I can say is everyone I know thinks it was a mistake to go in now." Despite this shocking admission, the war has no end in sight, and new information distributed by the whistleblower website Wikileaks appears to show that the U.S. military has killed Reuters reporters and then covered it up, stating that they had operated within the rules of war. The video you're seeing shows the deaths of journalists Namir Noor Eldin and Saeed Kamash, along with 6 other people on a street corner. It shows U.S. forces firing on a minivan in which 2 injured children were found. Joining me now to talk about all this, retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Karen Kwiatkowski, Ph.D., who has written on defense issues with a libertarian perspective for MilitaryWeek.com and LouRockwell.com. Colonel Karen, Dr. Karen, welcome back to Freedom Watch.
Well, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
What does the government do when it is confronted with the obvious? It has killed reporters. It has killed innocents. Why does it try and get us to look the other way?
Well, our government doesn't want to take accountability, the politicians and leadership. And in this case, it's Obama. I mean, not that George Bush wasn't denying the accountability, but even Obama, you would think this would be a great opportunity for him to kind of correct the wrongs. I mean, it's not just the shooting of the Reuters people, it's the nature of how our rules of engagement either are followed, and if that's the case, if they were followed, they're very wrong, or they weren't followed, in which case no one was held accountable.
Are folks in the military, Colonel Kwiatkowski, taught that it is a crime to target civilians and it is another crime to lie about the killing of civilians, whether it was unintentional or intended? I
believe that they are taught to do the right thing, to be accountable for mistakes, to tell the truth. You know, certainly at a young age they're taught, perhaps when they become politicized, but, you know, they forget that. But these guys are young. These guys flying, these Black Hawks, they're not, you know, they're people that know better, and yet they've practiced this way. The real problem, I think, with what we're seeing on the WikiLeaks video is that it's not unique. It's not unusual. This comes across as extremely typical, and I think some of the guys, there's been a lot of commentary, of course, on this video by military people, some of which served in the same unit, many of which served in Iraq doing similar things, and what they said was, yeah, this is how it looks. We did this all the time. So we got a big problem.
We're going to run the WikiLeaks video. It's about 53 or 54 seconds long, and you and I can talk about it as it's on there. In fairness, this is part of a much, much longer video. This is the operative part. If you listen a little bit, you can actually hear some of the American military folks communicating with each other.
Let me know when you have it. Or shoot. Light them all up.
Traffic 260.
Come on, fire. Hey, Roger. Keep shooting. Keep shooting.
Bushmaster 2-6. We need to move time now.
All right, we just engaged all 8 individuals. Yeah, we got 2 birds. We're still firing.
Wow, we just engaged all 8 individuals. There's no question, Colonel Kwiatkowski, that these were Americans who were doing this, that the people being killed were unarmed civilians, and that the Americans knew they were unarmed civilians.
I think there's no question, although I think at least one weapon on the ground is visible, but that weapon is not being brandished, that weapon is not being pointed, it is not being fired. So, yeah, I think these guys, it's just mass murder. and the normality of it all in terms of how they proceeded. And certainly, if you watch the mid-length video, when our guys come back in the ground, some of our guys come on to actually count the bodies, to assess the damage, to determine what to do with the wounded, and make decisions in the aftermath. I mean, this is about racking up the medals that they're going to get for a successful operation. So we have a huge, huge problem. And it's interesting to hear that the Republican congressmen are saying they believe this was a mistake in war, because certainly it was, and now's the opportunity to at least make partial amends by ending that occupation.
We're chatting with Colonel Karen Kwiatkowski. Colonel, why isn't the country screaming about this? Why isn't this on the front pages? Why isn't the military being called to account? Why aren't the people who did this being prosecuted? Why is this being hushed in corners rather than shouted from the rooftops?
I think I know why, and I draw the comparison to the Abu Ghraib pictures. In Abu Ghraib, when that story broke, the government, the DOD, already had a response, a storyline, an explanation, and they were going to blame it on bad apples at the lowest rank, which they did. This story cannot be blamed on bad apples. The government has no story that they can sell. And so what they're doing is, and the media, mainstream media is so cooperating with it in such an obvious way to back page this story to kind of keep it out of sight. But I don't think it's going to work. But they do not have a sellable blame game to go along with this. In fact, we've really got the government reeling, and I think it's time to strike as far as people who want to end the war, people who want to reduce this wasteful spending and murderous behavior that we've got. Now's the time to do it. This video is extremely important. I just can't say enough about it.
Do we know when, Karen, do we know when the killings depicted in the video actually took place? Do we know month and year of when this happened?
This occurred July, I think 17th, I'm not sure the actual date, of 2007. That's the day of it. And it's one day in many days, in the summer of 2007, the fall, 2006, 2008. I mean, this is what we do. It just so happens. I mean, one of the excuses, Reuters had been asking for this video. They wanted to know what happened to their employees, because clearly the evidence was they'd been shot from above and they were unarmed. They wanted to know the story. They requested the video. The government said they lost it. They said they couldn't find it. They were digging through so much video, they couldn't find it. So we got a big problem. And I really think that if people want this to be seen, forget the mainstream media. They're not going to cooperate. But we do need to make sure that at least one person, maybe 100 people in every district, send this link, send the video with a request that their congressperson watch this video and watch the whole thing and think about it, because you don't need to pass judgment on it. All you need to do is watch it. Even the military people cannot defend what they're seeing. They understand it. Many people experienced it. Military guys over there did this, but they cannot justify it. It's really an important thing. Of course, there's more. Wikileaks has another massacre, I believe, that's coming out. They've got a video. Someone leaked it to them in Afghanistan, where more people were killed in a similar way. So this has become our standard operating procedure, and it is very, very wrong. It's being done in our name, and it's got to stop.
Colonel Kwiatkowski, thank you for joining us on Freedom Watch.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me.
You can catch today's show on foxnews.com/freedomwatch and on Sirius 145 XM 168 or online at foxnewstalk.com at 6 p.m. Eastern on Saturdays. From New York, defending freedom. Until the next time, stay free, America.